Let's make a little bit of noise for Lauren, please. She's wonderful. So you know how the show works? They come on out, they sit down, they have a conversation. Following said conversation, of course, we do audience Q&A. No need to raise your hands. We're very civilized here. Think of your question. We'll come on over. We'll get you a microphone. We'll keep an eye out for questions from our friends on the internet. You can tweet at us at BuildSeriesNYC. The ball is in your court. Make it a really, really great question, and it just might make it on the show. That is my promise to you, that it just might. All right, so we'll find out if it does together. Think of something. Send it this way. No video or anything. Got some awesome guests. Got a fantastic stage. I want to put them on it, make this thing happen. But before we go any further, there is one more question I must ask. And I will remind you that our guest can hear you. Are you guys excited that Sophia's here? Come on, let's let her know. Let's do it up right. There you go. Hey, keep it going, ladies and gentlemen. And join me in welcoming your host and moderator from HuffPost, Lauren Moraski, and today's guest, the one, the only, Sophia Amoruso.
Sophia, welcome back to Build.
Thank you.
We are very excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
You have a ton going on. I don't even know where to begin, but let's begin with your new business, Girlboss, right here. You're the signature logo right here behind us. But this is a new venture. Of course, we know you from Nasty Gal, and now this is a whole new venture for you. What's your vision for it?
Girlboss is really, it's a conversation. It's about redefining success. We don't claim to have the answers. I don't know what your version of success is. And so it's individual to everybody, but it's a conversation that we can have together and that we should have together to land on what that means for each of us. And yes, it comprises work and money, and we create a lot of content at girlboss.com about work and money and productivity. And those are the things that are essential for you to build a life for yourself where you can think about other things like wellness and beauty. And so we create content that covers all of those areas, and we're looking at what does success mean from a really holistic point of view, because it's the first time in history where women are defining what success means for ourselves collectively. And, you know, it's a construct that was built by, you know, probably a really old white man with like gray hair, you know?
So if success means something different for everyone, do you have a definition for yourself that drives you each day?
Wow. I think it changes every day. I think that's my problem. I think, you know, sometimes it's working hard and sometimes it's like not like really chilling out. But I think it's largely having relationships that are sustainable and friendships that you know, that bring you more than what you can bring yourself through, like working hard. I think at the end of the day, you can work extremely hard and have an amazing life, but if you don't have people around you who understand you and who love you, it would be a very lonely experience.
Sure. So I'm imagining you have people around you working with you in this business venture that you feel comfortable with, right? How did you kind of like launch this new venture, having come from Nasty Gal?
Yeah. So I mean, Nasty Gal filed for Chapter 11 protection at the end of last year after 10 years of having like started an eBay store at 22 years old and, you know, getting a PhD in entrepreneurship and doing a lot of things that you should do and a lot of things that you shouldn't do and just learning the hard way. And Girlboss was the book that I wrote in 2014 that was about to become a Netflix series, had become a podcast, and in many ways had almost become bigger than Nasty Gal. You know, there's over 8 million Girlboss hashtags on Instagram and over 550,000 books sold. And then Netflix put Girlboss into 95 million homes in 195 countries. And being the hustler that I am, I was like, okay, this is a moment. This is like a moment that I would love to take time off from the decade of my life that I've poured into my last business, but life doesn't always really afford us that. Like, it's a smart choice to start now, but it was also, personally for me, it would have been nice maybe to take some time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, hired our president who was the CRO at Goop, Allie, who's amazing, and have hired like an amazing team, but really just started putting together like, this is what I think it can be. No, it's not any of these disparate things. It's not just a book. It's not just a Netflix series. It's not even just media. Girlboss is a brand and a conversation. What should that look like? And I've, you know, done a lot of work on that and talked to some really smart people and gotten some great investors to help us along the way.
So what did you take from your experience with Nasty Gal? You mentioned the bankruptcy, there was lawsuits to that you learned from, that you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again, or I'm going to do this differently this time.
Some of those things, it's tough. Like, some of the things that happened were completely out of my control, and sometimes you can't always point at what you did that led to that thing that you wish didn't happen, and that's a really challenging thing to experience. With this company, culture is really important. So we're a small team. I've worked with much larger teams. I didn't really think about company culture when I was 22 years old and working out of like a warehouse with my first few employees. I think culture was something like pizza. So thinking about how we work together, creating, processes so that people can do their jobs well, understanding the division of like different roles so that people aren't bumping into each other or duplicating work, and creating the guidelines for everyone to sign up for that say this is what the brand is. It's not my opinion versus your opinion and some creative director's opinion of what is on brand or not. Everybody has something objective to look at and say this is what it is, and we're signing up for that, instead of this moving target of like what's cool or what's on brand, which at a fashion company can happen.
Sure, that's a lot of drive. That's what's driving it in some ways. But it sounds like you've got a good approach this time, with the culture aspect, because it's so important.
There's understanding this philosophically, and there's actually doing it. There's a lot of things. All my problems would be solved if I could do everything I know I need to do, but I don't meditate. I still pick my face. So I'm trying. I know what it looks like. And we have a great team in LA. We're 11 people. So.
Yeah, small team. In tandem with this, you've also released a workbook. You released the memoir a few years ago, and this is the workbook. So how is this different than what you released back in 2014?
Yeah, so the workbook is it's like reverse engineering a lot of the advice that was in Girlboss. And so it's just like, it's a fun book to fill in the blanks, to destroy. It has the word fear and says like, deface it, and, reverse engineer, or like, what's your reverse bucket list? Like, what do you never want to do in life? Or, let's count our fair weather friends and let's count our real friends. Just like taking the time to think about the things that sometimes become autopilot in our personal lives and in our careers. And it's a really interactive, like, beautiful illustrated book that has a lot of the takeaways that Girlboss had.
Who do you think should be the intended audience for something like this? Like, who should pick this up?
Yeah, I think this is for someone who's probably in her 20s. I think it's a great gift for someone who's getting out of school. Anyone who wants to make a career change, anyone who's thinking about quitting a job or getting a job, which pretty much everyone is always in that stage.
Yes.
And really someone who's really ambitious.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it'll be a good thing to release around the holidays. That's for sure. You're also launching rallies.
Yes.
I know you did your first one this year, and another one is coming up very soon, right?
Yeah,
Here in New York.
We have a conference here in New York that we call the Girlboss Rally on Saturday. It's sold out. There's 600 women coming. We have 30 incredible speakers, everyone from Ashley Graham to Esther Perel, Tess Holliday, the founder of Bumble, Whitney Wolf. And it's very much the conversation that I described when we sat down, which is, what does success look like through this, like the lens of today for women. And we have some incredible brands joining us. And we have digital tickets still available. So if you can't attend, you can attend online, and those are available at girlboss.com.
We've really seen sort of a movement this year. We had the Women's March earlier this year, and just everything that's going on in society and politics. How has that influenced you? What kind of momentum are you feeling with that?
I think the momentum is just like, the groundswell is just so huge, and things that used to fly no longer fly, and it's almost like a purging. Like, it feels like culture is really changing, and things have to become uncomfortable for that to happen, and people have to be sometimes scared into behaving themselves for it to become institutionalized historically, that we no longer behave this way. And so I think our country is getting a collective education in a lot of things, from women's rights to, race issues to all of the above. And it feels like we're sweating it out. And it couldn't be a more important time for us to be doing what we're doing at Girlboss, and bringing that conversation to as many people as
It's been
possible.
pretty incredible seeing the Me Too hashtag kind of take hold in the wake of the sexual assault allegations and claims and everything from women all over. It's happening in Hollywood, but it's happening too on the ground level at in all different types of companies. I mean, what advice would you give to somebody who might be facing something like that at their workplace? That they might not be a celebrity.
Yeah, I would say it's tough. HR can be your friend. They're supposed to be your friend, but they work for the company, and their job is to protect you, but it's also to protect the company. So depending on who they are and how they operate, it can almost be a conflicted role. I would say talk to an attorney, document everything if you're being like sexually harassed or worse. Really just like make sure that other people know this is happening to you, and document it and talk to the right people.
Yeah, hopefully this continues and that we're seeing more people speak out and feel more comfortable in this range. Yeah. Broadening it out a little bit, I'm sure people come to you with what's your best career advice? I mean, if you had to say one thing to someone either starting their own business or just starting out in their first job.
I'd say persistence.
Yeah.
I mean, from the time I got my first job at Subway, I was like, hi, is the manager here? Okay, I'm back. Is the manager here? And right now it's like I've been talking to investors. I've never heard so many no's in my life, because when I raised money at Nasty Gal, we were already a pretty large company and people were fighting to get in. I have like an idea and a Squarespace website and a great team, and we're putting on a conference, but it's really different to be out there like pitching what I'm doing. And so I'd say persistence is your friend. No. Sorry.
There's a little commotion going on out there.
Mayhem.
Yeah.
I didn't know people actually actually hammed it up like that, because they're like, hey, can we take your pic? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, we have a crowd outside.
It's embarrassing to be seen doing that, so I just don't do it. Even if I want to have the photo, I just don't want to be the person who's seen doing that. I'm that vain. Sorry.
No.
What was I saying? Career advice.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much my persistence in these conversations has worked, and it feels like no one's listening sometimes. It feels like what you're doing is going out into outer space, and it's not coming back, and nobody cares, or people don't believe in what you're doing. Or even after 10 years of building a really big company, I'm like, am I even fit for this? All of the doubt. But it's like the Indiana Jones scene where he throws the rocks and there's the bridge, but you can't really see the bridge. You gotta just throw the rocks and step out onto the invisible bridge that is you asking for what you want and setting intentions and continuing to do that and being okay changing course. But without that, nothing happens. Nothing happens if you don't ask for it. And often you have to yell, kick, scream, complain, threaten to fire, not employees, but an attorney or something like that, to get get people's attention. Because attention is, we're so busy today. So it's even more important to know how to get in front of people and make them pay attention.
Persistence. Okay, yeah, that's an easy one to take away. I mean, it's hard to act upon, but it's an easy one to remember, I think.
Yeah. And I use the Boomerang app. So it's not an app. They do have an app, but it's a plugin for Gmail that if you can push a button and it says, if this person doesn't respond and you can select from a drop-down menu 2 days, 5 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, then pop it back up into my inbox. So it basically, if no one responds to my email within a certain amount of time, it comes back in my inbox. So I can be like, hi, following up on this, because if you don't, it's just so hard to keep track of that. And it holds you accountable. So I recommend Boomerang for Gmail.
It's pretty crazy how Girlboss, when you started, it's very different. It's very intentional versus when you started Nasty Gal, which you had said you kind of accidentally fell into, right? At 20-something years
I
old.
mean, I started an eBay store. I wasn't like, I'm going to be a founder, entrepreneur, a CEO. Like, this is like so, I was like, I don't want to work in the lobby of an art school anymore, checking student IDs. And I don't know if community college or college for me is for me at all. And I don't know, I can find vintage, it was like putting together the things that I guess I was talented enough at to make a brand, but I still can't say that I have like one talent. Like I'm not a photographer, I'm not an engineer, but I have built brands. What was your question?
No, just, yeah, well, it was just that, it's very, to me, it seems very different.
It's different, yeah. This is much more intentional.
Yeah.
So it's the second brand I've created on accident, but the first business that I've started with more intention than just like paying my rent.
And it's crazy because just earlier this year we saw a version of your life, not your life per se, thrust up on Netflix.
It's also fuzzy.
Yeah, it's fuzzy, right?
But
what was that like for you to see this?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, one of the ways I make decisions is just like, would it sound cool in a book? Cool, I'm building a legacy. That's probably a reckless way to make decisions. But I was like, my kids, if I have kids, they're gonna watch this. That's cool. And working with someone like Charlize and Kay Cannon, who was the showrunner, was amazing. Seeing having an all access pass to like any Netflix series is really exciting. But it's definitely strange to have someone playing a version of you when you're 22 years old as you're trying to start over and tell a new story and build something new and no longer have people associate you with a thing that you were so closely identified with for the last 10 years. So that's like, that'll like mess with your head. But it was a really great experience. And I'm glad that the only story that's happening now is the one that we're here, having today.
If there were a season 2, what part of your life do you think would be portrayed on that show?
I don't know. It was really funny, though, because when the show came out, people were like, ooh, can't wait for season 2, when she goes bankrupt, And it's just like, I don't know what the second season would have been. I don't think they'd just fast forward 10 years. I think it would have been like, her, at the end of the first season, she had just launched her eBay store, my eBay, I don't know. And I think it would have been like, having a small team and maybe talking to investors for the first time and maybe designing or going to trade shows and pivoting out of vintage, which is what I did. But I don't know. And actually haven't really thought about it. So
until you're asked, right?
Yeah.
But even in your book, you even have a section like saying, how to avoid bankruptcy. You kind of acknowledge that this is, things happen to you. You're okay with that, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really not. It seems pretty weird to just avoid it. It's like that happened, and it's a part of my story, and we all, make mistakes or fail in different ways all the time. I just did it at a much larger scale, and I'm fine. That's the thing. It's like I'm very grateful for what I have in the grand scheme of things. It seems really big, and yes, it is. And I am seeing a therapist and whatever. But at the end of the day, I have the things that matter. I have my family. I have my health. I have my brain, and I live in a great place. I take it. It's a big deal, but I take it with a grain of salt.
Perspective,
Yeah.
really. Have you thought about your next book?
I have. I've joked about calling it Chapter 12. Some people get that. That's why I'm not going to call it that. Yes, it'll be more of it's not going to be an illustrated or visual book. It'll be a full whoa, I wrote a book in 2014 when I thought I knew some stuff, and I totally did, and maybe I have to relearn it, but here's what I've learned since then. And it's been a wild ride.
Well, we look forward to that. Before we let you go, we have some questions from the crowd here.
Great.
So let's get it started.
Hi, my name is Destiny. So my first question was, how did you get the confidence to leave everything? Because I'm in college right now, my first year of college, and I just turned 18, and just getting into the industry of styling and things like that, it's just been super hard. And just wondering, how do you you had a lot of confidence to just leave your whole life and just start that whole thing. Like, how do you gain that confidence?
Well, you're in college. Like, I wasn't even in college. Like, you have way more going for you than I probably did at 22. So I was like just working like a really shitty job and was like, I'll start an eBay store. And it was just like me and like a pile of clothes in a room. So it wasn't like there was nothing to say goodbye to. Like, it was my future, you know. I wasn't doing anything else, unfortunately. So, and it's funny, people have asked me that, like, how did you have the courage to start something and to, like, you know, for a lot of people that means leaving a job, like a real job. The jobs I had were like, you know, very entry level. And I've always I've never really related to that, but starting a company now, I really relate to that, even though I left Nasty Gal, but starting a business when you have something to lose is really different. And I'm there now, and it's so much scarier than being like naive and not really, just it falling into it, I guess. But I'd say, be confident, be persistent, know what your talents are, be comfortable, like selling yourself and to people, not like your soul, but know what your strengths are, and yeah.
Great, thanks. Next question.
Hi. First off, I watched the whole Netflix series, and it was amazing. I watched it in like one day. Like, I really loved
Cool.
it. But the question was, if you had to give yourself advice in 2014, what would it be, like, through all the experiences, and like maybe even if you do have regrets, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to stay closer to my business. I think there was like times where I'd hired really great people, and I trusted them because they had so much more experience than me. But we know, like, scientifically, like a particle that is observed like behaves differently than one that isn't. And people are like that too. It doesn't matter how much experience they have or if they can write their own job description and set their own goals. Like, when you have a company, you really have to, you're the person executing. You're the chief executive officer, right? What else? 2014. And then I think probably to just like take time for myself. That's the thing that I have found the hardest, and it becomes harder every year. I didn't need to take care of myself as much when I was in my 20s as I do now. I didn't need as much time between things, or I don't know how to describe it, but I have it becomes harder to work 24 hours a day, I guess.
All right, well, thank you for that question. Sophia, thank you so much for coming by
you.
today. Good luck with Girlboss and everything else. The workbook is out now, and the rally is coming up very soon. And if you can't attend, you can watch online, potentially.
Yeah, at girlboss.com.
Girlboss.com. Give it up one more time for Sophia.
Thank you.